Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 18 of the Spawn Point podcast. Joining with me is Andy Webb, and also two faces you haven't seen before. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Who wants to start?
Hi, I'm Tirinei. I have a channel on YouTube about WoW mostly. I do gameplay and WoW news.
And I'm Ebbie, also known as Bizarre85, and I do anime-related content mostly. I do some game stuff occasionally as well.
So we've got a bit of a mix of, different people doing different things. What we're going to be talking about this week is eSports. So I don't know if any of you watch any gaming tournaments live streamed or anything like that. I don't watch them religiously myself. Not as much as some of the statistics I've got suggest, because that's crazy. But we'll get onto that. But I guess overall, what are your views of esports? Who wants to take the?
Shall I go first? Well, I think they are actually growing in size, and the statistics, as you mentioned, actually backs that up. We'll go into that later. But I feel like it's a genuine growing thing in the world, and yeah, whether it actually needs the term sports, whether it actually should have the tag sports, is another question, which we'll go into in a bit.
Yeah, I mean the kind of the subject line of this topic is it a real sport, which I guess has to be put in quotation marks because, well, what is a real sport? And what does that even mean? Does that actually mean anything? I would for the other both of you. When's the last time you watched anything related to esports, and what are your views on it?
Sadly enough, the last esport I watched was when I was trying to find the skip button when I was watching BlizzCon's live stream last year. I've watched some of them, though, because it does grab my attention once in a while if it's a game that I like. So the only ones I've really watched are World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. Hearthstone was more fun to me because WoW, theirs are like arenas and battlegrounds, and I can't stand them. They stress me out too much. But I think that they're fun, and I think that people that have a sense of competition and are nerds and play games, and that's what they spend most of their time doing, and they're just not athletic, then I think that's really great, and I think that's why it's growing, because more and more people are online and getting into games. I mean, there are some people that I would have never imagined playing games that are playing games now, people that I know. Like older people, they're like, what's the hype about? All right, check it out. And they don't play religiously, but, they're in their 50s. Yeah. Like, I'm going to come play, of course.
I mean, there's the contrast of, there are people in older generations who do kind of respect it and do, they do take an interest in it. And then there are some who are just downright disrespectful, which is another thing we'll get to. We're going to discuss about HBO and a discussion that they had. But for those of you who might be watching, and I forgot.
Ebbie is
what do you?
Sorry. Token esports watcher, I feel.
So do you probably watch it the most out of all of us, I'm guessing?
Well, it depends, because I don't watch League of Legends or anything like that, because it doesn't really interest me, but I do watch a lot of fighting game tournaments, like Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom, because I just find them entertaining. I don't know whether they're sports or not, but I don't think it really matters because it's fun at the end of the day. So and it's giving people jobs and, the chance to go to America to do things like participate. And I think that's cool. That's pretty cool.
So when you watch, if you're watching a Street Fighter tournament, for example, is there a particular player that you root for each time, or is it just whoever happens to be on at a time, you're like, oh, this is a good match, I'll just, is it there's a particular people that you follow and we're like, oh, are they playing, whatever?
I follow this guy called Infiltration. He's this adorable Korean guy who's so hype-worthy, it's great. But if there's ever anyone from England or whatever, I'm usually interested to see how far they go, if they win anything or whatever. I don't know, country pride or something.
Yeah, good old country pride. I think that's the way with any sports. Like, if for example England's playing in the World Cup, I'll actually go out of my way to watch football. I don't watch football at all. I hate.
Do you mean
sport.
for the short span that they actually are in the World Cup?
Yeah, for
And
all,
they just
all 2 matches that were in the World Cup, I'll actually go, hey, maybe it's worth watching for once. And I suppose it's the same with you, Ebbie.
I think, yeah, some people might be watching this and so far are like, what the hell are you guys talking about? What is eSports? Is that they want to understand what exactly it is. So to give a technical definition, eSports is a term for organized video game competitions. So they're professional players who compete in a series of tournaments. There's like a prize pool, like a winner. I don't know what you're laughing at because I can't hear it, Ebbie. So so yeah, it's basically professionals competing in loads of different tournaments, and they'll be, they won't be just like the average kind of casual gamer. They're people who just have strategies. They just play these games religiously and know all the ins and outs. And it's got quite a big following. In fact, it's popular enough. This is where the statistics come in. Did you know that more than 70 million people watch esports worldwide in the last year? This is 2013. And it's doubled since last year in terms of viewership. The majority age range is 21 to 34 years old. The average viewer watches esports 19 times a month. And the average watch session is 2.2 hours. And there's projected to be over 100 million viewers in 2015. So, I don't even think people watch the traditional sports as much as 19 times a month,
Did you say that was average as well?
Yeah, like the average viewer is 19 times, is that even crazy for your standards?
Well, I watch occasional Street Fighter, whenever it's on.
Yeah.
That's not that often, so.
Now,
2.2 hours seems high for that many people that watch it as the average watch time.
Yeah, I wonder, because sometimes when I'm watching a stream, I just have it on like another monitor, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to play something else, and then just have it there. So I wonder if that's sort of fudging the figures a bit.
Sometimes I have it when I do watch anything to do with esports. I sometimes have the the commentary in the background. I'm not actually watching it, and then once I hear a reaction, oh my god, I'm like, what happened? What did I miss? I'm just but
people do that with real sports. That was
well,
wrong.
yeah. What did you try to say?
Athletic sports. Too, they'll have it on while they're doing whatever around the house, and then something gets intense, and they run in the other room and go watch it. So
now, with all of those statistics, and clearly it's something that's highly popular. Do you think that it fails to be taken seriously? Do you think that the mainstream audience, a lot of, like we said, that we'll get around to the HBO video, where they discuss about what it is, and a lot of them are clueless. Do you think that it kind of gets the respect that it deserves, and it is kind of taken seriously as a competitive sport or event or whatever you want to call it?
I think the HBO video said it quite well. No.
Do you think that accurately represents kind of the majority of,
I feel like that represents the majority of older people in the sport. I mean, I for example, I didn't really get into watching StarCraft 2 as a competitive sport until I actually understood how the game played, because I watched a couple of streams of that before, and I was just going, what are all these units going around the place? I have no idea what's happening. And I got the game, played it for a bit, and I was like, right, I understand what's happening now. I understand the strategies behind everything, and I don't think I appreciated the streams until I'd done that. And I feel like they're older people, not trying to put them in a box here, but wouldn't bother doing that. and finding out about that.
Ebbie, Tiri, is that something you would agree with?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think that enough people watch it, and there are enough people that don't have negative things to say about it to where I think that it does get quite a bit of respect and is taken seriously. But there is definitely that group of people that are like, what is this? This is garbage. Moving on.
I do think when, like, sometimes we might not understand something, like something might be really popular, and even like a particular game that I don't enjoy playing might be massively popular. I think just because I don't understand it doesn't mean I have to kind of talk bad about it. Like, just because I don't get what it is doesn't mean it's not very good. Which I think is sometimes a mentality. It's like if someone doesn't understand something and they don't get it, then they just think, oh, it's not worth me knowing about. Like, it's,
I do feel like it's a big generation gap, though. I think that is a huge part of why older people don't get it. Sorry. Like my grandma, if I showed her what eSports were, she would be like, you need to get a job and get a life and don't spend your time doing this stuff. And I feel like that's what the media is basically saying.
You bring up a good point. How, if you told, if you guys told your grandparents or anyone in where there's a big generation gap, if you told them about not just esports, but YouTube videos where people have let's plays where you watch people playing video games, not playing them yourself, and just video games in general, what kind of reaction would they have, and what do they think of it?
Well, I've told my grandma about this stuff before, so she's just said, "You're wasting your time. Why aren't you playing the game yourself? And why are you watching someone else do it? Why don't you do something else with your time?" It's just, I don't think she understands the appeal of it, because she's not going to try it out, and that's fine. I'm not going to change her mind. But that's my grandma. She's not someone in the media who's spreading their thoughts, particularly, so...
My grandparents didn't watch me play games for more than half a second, so I can imagine they would just be like, yeah, okay, moving on. I don't think that they would have any interest.
Now, interestingly, although he's long gone, my granddad, I think he might have been into esports, because he was actually one of the... When I used to go over to Ireland to see him, I used to spend hours just there watching him play Sonic on the Mega Drive. And he actually owned all of these consoles and everything, and I would sit there just watching him. And I feel like he would be the type of older person that would understand it, but he's probably a real exception to the rule there.
I mean, yeah, my granddad, he just loves taking an interest in that kind of stuff, because to him, anything that is new and he doesn't really know about, he wants to know every little thing about, how does this work? How does I could sit there for an hour and explain to him how because he used to work in advertising, and I explained to him now how advertising works on YouTube and online and stuff like that, and he's I want to know how it works and all that kind of stuff. So I think maybe he does, but most of my family will just be
I'm just imagining him oh, what are the kids up to these days? Oh, the YouTubes.
He actually watches YouTube videos.
Really?
I got him into he.
That is cool.
So yeah, I mean, but most of my family would be they get it, but they kind of don't understand why I like video games or stuff. They might be that's cool, he likes doing that, but I don't really understand why. And I think that is the case with in the generation gap. It's yeah, I get that you like that. I don't know why, but each to their own.
Doesn't bad talk it. He accepts it, and then
yeah. I mean, I was just trying to think of something that was different with our generation to theirs, and I can't think of something similar to compare
Board
it
games.
The Beatles.
Compare
Beatles. Yeah, what
Golf?
is Beatles?
I guess I don't know, maybe sports games, sports video games are easy to more than like something that's like a fantasy game, like a sci-fi or WoW, for example. I think it would be harder for them to get their head around that than if you played like a football game or a hockey game, because I actually played that before. I was playing it at like my grandparents' house when I was younger, and I would bring like my PS1 round or whatever, and they thought it was real. Like the graphics weren't even that good back then, and they were like, "Oh, is this a real match?" I was like, "No, So, yeah, I think it's a bit harder to understand depending on the game. But moving back to like the whole, esports being taken seriously and how it's treated. ESPN recently said the president, John Skipper, he said that he was asked about the Twitch acquisition with Amazon buying it for roughly $1 billion. And he was basically like, "Oh, what are your thoughts on this happening? And and how will this affect esports?" And he didn't really answer the question and show his view. He just went, "No, it's not a sport. It's a competition. Chess is a competition. Checkers is a competition. And he's more interested in doing real sports." Even though ESPN have poker, which is just as much of a sport as esports is. They don't require much physical activity. They're both strategy based. They're both, mostly mental skills.
Well, what about things that are actually seen as sports, like F1, that doesn't require any physical activity or anything, that is mostly skill? Which is the same with video games, but that's still classed as a sport.
With F1 though, you do need to be fairly fit, because it's been proven that the fitter you are, the quicker your reaction times are. So I know that F1 racers do need to be quite physically fit to be able to.
But here's one.
To do everything. But yeah, there's like something like golf.
What about darts? None of the people that play darts are in shape, and all you have to do is go. Well,
your wrists have to be like.
Yeah, I guess, but you're not going to have like some muscles bulging out like. Oh!
And you have to have the guns to be able to lift up the pint in between shots.
Oh.
Yes, that.
And in the pie intervals as well. Yeah, so it is a bit of a ridiculous claim, but more interesting than so ESPN have shown esports, but they said they were going to show it on TV on like their main ESP1 channel. Then it kind of got pushed onto online streaming on their ESPN3 service because they didn't think it was didn't think it was good enough for TV, and they wanted to keep traditional sports broadcast on TV.
Just a quick question there because I don't subscribe to ESPN. Do you need to have a subscription to them to be able to watch ESPN3?
Honestly, that's a good question. I don't know, because I'm not subscribed to ESPN either, because I don't really watch too much of them.
The main platform for everyone watching online games is obviously the internet. Also, competitive games. There are arena stuff as well, but could putting it on the internet instead of on the TV, if you didn't have to pay for the subscription, that could be a good move in a way. Because that's the platform that people are probably most likely to watch it on. I've got no founding to any of these facts at all. It's just making a load of assumptions.
Yeah, but that's ESPN's kind of take on it more recently. But going back to December of last year, HBO had it was on a discussion panel. They have a thing called it's called Real Sport, ironically. The show was called Real Sport, and they were talking about like all four of us have seen the like summarized clip of it. Apparently it is longer, and one of the people does defend League of Legends and stuff, but they talk at the beginning, and they say about all these, how unpopular it is. They show off these stadiums, how much these people are making money, how much money they're making, and like have a really serious take on it. And then after that, they just kind of make a mockery of it. Like they make a Star Trek joke about like, all these people must be playing, like all these people, was there a connection between them also like in Star Trek? It's like, why do you have to be so
too young for Star Trek?
Yeah, like why do they have to be like so? They were clearly taking stabs at like, this is just something really nerdy, and like no one really should take this seriously, because they were laughing at it, and they're like, I don't know who any of these people are, so they can't really be that important. But one of the women, she was saying, "Oh, it's just a game. It's not a sport. It's just a game." Well, every sport is a game, so that doesn't really make sense. Like, you got to have more of a valid argument than that. But after watching this video, what do you? By the way, this video got over 6,000 dislikes and only about 200 likes. But what were your thoughts after watching this? Did you feel angry? Did you feel kind of annoyed? How did you feel after seeing these people talk about esports and kind of make a joke out of it?
Let you two go first.
I'm not the type of person who's gonna get offended when I call my viewers nerds at the beginning of every video. I'm all about it, whatever.
But it's more in an endearing way. You're not meaning it in I think the way they mean it was more in when they say it's more in a derogatory kind of way. When you say it might be a term of endearment,
Their jokes didn't really bother me, but that's just because I'm comfortable with it, and if they want to make fun of it, then that's fine. They don't understand it, so say whatever you want. But it's weird because I somewhat agree. When you take the E off of it, it's inaccurate. It's not a sport. It's an e-sport. It's electronic. It doesn't need to be considered a sport. It's a competition where you play games, and that's kind of what some of them were saying. They were just being kind of, like you were saying, derogatory about it. So I don't know. The video didn't really bother me. I thought it was just kind of funny. It's whatever, But I don't get offended by that sort of thing. So,
Ebbie, what do you think?
I'd sort of agree with what you were just saying, but at the same time, also made me feel a little bit sad. There's more people that just don't understand where we're coming from now, and they're just. I think the fact that it was a broadcast thing was what bothered me, because then people will listen and go, "Oh, that must be the case then."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're sad for them, though, right? You're sad for them because they just don't get it.
Yeah, they don't have as much fun as I do.
Yeah.
Mind you, the age range of these people, that's another thing that we need to we can't not mention this. None of these people in this panel, it was a bit of a biased, one-sided panel of people, because there was one guy who looked like he was about to conk out on the chair there and then. The other people looked like I don't know, please don't come after me, HBO, but they looked like they were 40, 50, I don't know, they looked they didn't look like anyone who would actually play video games, and I feel like it would have been good to have half and half, really. Have some people that actually, maybe if they brought on the show, a couple of people who actually competed in one of the tournaments, so they could get their view and kind of help explain. But
see, the one thing that really annoyed me about it is the way that they came across, and I'm going to liken this to Question Time when the BMP came on, and I feel like the people had made their decision to the argument to what they were going to say, and they weren't open to any other people's opinions, because I was when the BMP, who all of the American viewers, BMP are sort of seen as a racialist party in the UK, and they came on a program called Question Time to answer sort of political debate, and everyone had shoehorned them straight away, and they were just trying to use it as an attack. And I was actually interested in a serious debate in that show, and it just turned into an absolute farce. And I feel like that's what their debate sort of started off as, a complete farce. And I would have preferred them if they'd have gone, okay, we're open to this sort of esports thing. I don't feel like it's a proper sport. This is why, instead of just going, hey, look at all those nerds over there. Look at them playing their games.
It kind of felt like a little bit like, for me, it was the build-up. It was this, this is a really big accomplishment. Loads of people are making careers out of this, And then the video ends, and it's like all of them were like, what a load of crap. Who are these jokers? Just all these accomplishments, and they've just gone that's nothing. It just seemed a little bit disrespectful, but I mean, like Terry said, it's not really, it's only a few people's opinion. What does it matter? But it was more that it was so unnecessary of a segment. Like, if it's like back to the thing. If you haven't got something nice to say, there's no point saying it at all. And you think they'd know better, being a television studio, not to just broadcast something just to put it down. If they'd had like a serious debate about it and had like pros and cons, then, I mean, the full thing, one of them did, I don't know which one, but one of them did defend, like they could see why it was popular and stuff. So they kind of
shut down. She got shut down quite quickly,
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is that it's not really, what you got to look at, it's not really the fact that why it's important to some people that this is considered a sport, or a real sport, or traditional sport, or whatever, or a proper sport, is that they want it to be taken just as seriously. They don't care about if it's in that category so much. It's just that they want it to be like, oh, so what kind of sporting events do you watch? Oh, I watch football, eSports. They want it to come up in that same kind of conversation of stuff that you watch and be treated the same. And I feel like the way they wish to achieve that is to be considered in the same category. I mean, there was some article that I read a while ago, I couldn't find it, but about League of Legends being officially deemed as a sport, because basically they needed to get, there was a bunch of Korean esports players and they needed to get visas to get into another country, or I can't remember where it was too. And in order to get that, it had to be for like a, what is this for? Well, in order to kind of get it, they had to file under it being a sporting event, like they're competing in a sport. So that kind of happened. But with that being said, what is your definition of a sport? And does it really matter what we call this, as long as it's treated with respect and treated the same?
I think Thierry's gonna agree with this, but I don't think an e-sport can be categorized as a sport. It's the official definition is something can't remember off the top of my head. An athletic activity requiring skill or physical prowess, and often a competitive nature. So by that strict definition, esports is not a sport. However,
although
it does really matter?
It does say in its skill or physical. It doesn't say physical skill. So
it's an athletic activity.
It starts with athletic activity,
I guess
requiring
so.
skill or physical.
But then I think if that's the case, maybe we should strip like darts, poker.
Oh god, I don't
like,
agree that they're sports either. By no means.
That's why I think ESPN are hypocrites. By the way, is that they say, "Oh, this isn't a real sport," but be sure to tune in to ESPN Poker at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
But that makes the whole point null and void, though. I feel like, because enough people watch it, and they obviously care enough about it that it's got a competitive nature. So does it really matter that it's not classed as a sport? I don't think so.
It's a competition and it's entertaining. So it's almost like if you call poker a sport, then okay, does sport mean competitions that bring audiences and make money? Because in that case, it's the same thing. But yeah, I agree. Poker is not a sport any more than esports are. So that's why it's like esports are esports. I don't really care that they be called sports, but I'm also not an avid esports watcher.
And Evie?
I'd sort of agree with that in a sort of roundabout way, but they aren't saying that they are sports, they're saying they're esports. They may have the word sports in there, but they're not saying that they are sports. It's esports, they're e-athletes, whatever. But I don't think it matters at the end of the day.
Maybe that's it. Maybe the reason why these people on HBO were kind of, putting it down was because they felt threatened that, I don't know, like their beloved kind of like traditional sports that they were like kind of getting pushed aside. And and that all they'd have to watch is this eSports stuff now. So they kind of wanted to just defend their corner, and they just thought, in order to keep these traditional sports popular, we need to make people believe that this isn't worth watching. Maybe that's it.
I think it goes back to the simple fact that one of the first people to comment said, "I did not even know that was a thing." So they obviously didn't do any research about it before, so that they couldn't have a balanced argument for the case. So I feel that they just didn't have any knowledge, so they couldn't make a sensible argument for whether it was or not.
So to round up, sort of final thoughts and opinions, I want to know, where do you see, we said right at the beginning about 100 million viewers being projected worldwide for 2015. Where do you see, what direction do you see gaming tournaments, esports, all that kind of stuff? What direction do you see it heading in? And, based on popularity, what do you expect will happen? Do you think that it become more of a mainstream thing, and you'll hear people who weren't necessarily gamers before maybe having a look and getting interested and checking it out? Do you think that it will become more socially acceptable to a wider range of people?
I do. It already has such a wide, so many people, as you've said with your statistics, are into it. I think it's only going to grow, especially, I would just like to say, when virtual reality games start becoming a thing. Because that, thank you very much, will be a sport, because you will be moving. So, hey, what about Wii?
Oh, yeah.
No, we did not. How do we not even think of that?
Competitions? Oh my god. Anyway, to sum up my opinion.
I bet all of that panel of HBO people, they all thought the Wii was fantastic, and
Yeah, when somebody brought that up, they'd probably all be like,
did they even know what it was, though? That's another question.
I don't know. Anyway, I think it's only going to grow and get bigger, and I think that eventually it will be even more widely accepted, because they'll have to accept it, because it's what so many people want.
Ebbie?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with exactly that. I'm already seeing people who aren't particularly into games watching Street Fighter tournaments, watching Marvel vs. Capcom, getting really hype and interested in it, and I think that's cool, because it's just a little bit of entertainment. It's not supposed to be this big debate about what a sport is. It's just supposed to be fun, and I can't see it, declining anytime soon. So
yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with both of you, and I also feel like as people grow up, they have kids, that it's going to be more socially acceptable, because the people that are mainly watching it are at the age where they're going to start having children, and if they start getting their children interested in sort of the esports, then they'll start watching it, and it will just grow it exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But then it'll be the VR sports and the VR athletes.
Just
and
imagine,
then they'll be having,
and then we'll be like,
VR sports a real sport.
esports.
just imagine
Esports are real sports.
having your 4-year-old kid just strapping like an Oculus Rift to his head, just be like, look, you got to start early. Just that could well
like
happen.
the Matrix. Everyone is going to just have these full body things, and they're going to be plugged into that, and that's going to be their sports.
I do think it's gonna, it's got a very long, thriving future for it. Especially just like the amount it's been growing in like the last couple of years. It's been around for longer than most people think. It's just, I'd say, with like Twitch live streaming and other streaming services popping up, over the since last 2 or 3 years, it's just really just skyrocketed. And yeah, I think regardless of what they might say on some TV show about I like Star Trek, it doesn't matter, it kind of reminds me, Andy, of that Family Guy clip. The thing that goes, nerd, and he pulls off he pulls up the trousers instead of pulling them down.
I thought you were going to make a reference to Rife on the holodeck there, but
but yeah, I think we're all sort of fairly much in agreement, really. We're sort of the ones, we're like the polar opposite of HBO. we're just all agreeing like it's brilliant, and it's something it's something that can entertain a lot of people, and yeah, it's not going anywhere. HBO, get over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's that about wraps up episode 18 of the Spawn Point. I will be leaving, of course, annotations will be on both Ebbie and Tiri, and you can check out their channels. And if you don't, then I'm very disappointed in you. But from all four of us, we will see you later. Goodbye.
Yay, bye.
Bye.